There was this woman, Diana Campbell, who would pop into my office every now and then when I first started at the university. I didn't know who Diana or Dee was, but she had a really positive energy and a zest for life about her. I didn't know it at the time, but a year and a half later I would be not only counting her as a friend, but as a co-investigator on a major CIHR-funded health research project involving a group of women, an amazing group of women from Pictou Landing First Nation. Dee was the one who invited me out to meet them. I will never forget going to Pictou Landing with Dee for the first time. There we were, piled into a car, making the 2-hour drive, and talking about what was our first meeting going to be like with the women. We arrived at the church and I was nervous. I'd been prepped a little about Boat Harbor. It was a smelly, ugly mess coming from a pulp and paper mill that had been pumping its effluent into their backyard for almost 50 years. There was a lawsuit. There was tension between Pictou Landing and the neighboring white community of Pictou. There were politics. There are always politics when it comes to government and industry and resource extraction on Indigenous lands, whether they're ceded or not. There would be community politics, and I was a newcomer, so yep, I was pretty nervous. Walking into the church, I looked around the room at a group of about 15 women and smiled shyly. Some acknowledged me. Others looked on quietly with their arms crossed, and still others continued their chatter. There was a lot of talk, some of it in English, some in Mi'kmaq. I listened. I listened and listened. And then they asked me to introduce myself. So I did. I told them about my family and where I come from and what I've learned along the way from my teachers and from the research I've done together with Huayet from the West Coast. And then I went back to listening to the ladies of the Pictou Landing Native Women's Group as they told their stories and shared their concerns about the health impacts of Boat Harbor. 4 years later, I look back at the remarkable journey we have been on together. We have laughed together often. We have cried together too. We've gotten angry at the academy, at the government, at the industry, at the time it takes to get things done, at the time this project takes away from time we should have been able to devote to our families. That's why this project means something to me. Ingrained inequities are disproportionately felt by Indigenous peoples in Canada. It is unjust and it goes against my values of social justice, environmental justice, and health equity for this country. All Canadians have a right to a healthy environment, and I want to be a part of making this happen. So thank you, Dee, and thank you, everyone from the Pictou Landing Native Women's Association, for inviting me to do so.